These are stories where love meets betrayal. Stories that make you see life a little differently.
The rain was already falling when I woke. Not loudly, not urgently, just enough to remind the city that something was always coming down, even when we pretended nothing was happening. He was standing by the window, phone in his hand, back turned to me. For a moment, I watched him the way you watch a stranger in a familiar room. The shoulders I used to recognize, the silence I no longer did. "Did you sleep?" he asked without turning around. "Yes," I said. It wasn't true, but it was easier than explaining how sleep had learned to avoid me. The rain traced thin lines down the glass, orderly, predictable, unlike us. We had been married for 11 years, long enough for habits to replace questions, long enough for love to stop asking for permission. People think betrayal arrives suddenly, with a confession, with another name, with evidence. But sometimes it arrives as a decision made without you and stays quiet. He poured coffee, 2 cups, just like always. That's how I knew something was wrong, because he never made coffee for me anymore. Not consciously, just not anymore. "I talked to the doctor," he said casually, as if discussing the weather. My hand froze around the mug. "What doctor?" I asked. He finally turned, smiled. That careful smile, the one meant to calm. "Our doctor. About your results." My results. The word landed between us like a drop that splashes wider than expected. "I thought we agreed we'd talk about that together," I said. "We did," he replied quickly. "Eventually." Eventually. Another word that had learned to hide behind good intentions. The rain grew heavier. "They're not serious," he continued. "Nothing urgent. I didn't want you to worry." I looked at him, really looked, and I realized something unsettling. He wasn't lying to hurt me. He was lying to protect a version of peace that only existed for him. "When were you planning to tell me?" I asked. He shrugged slightly. That movement alone told me everything. "When there was something to tell." There it was, the first fracture. I nodded, not because I agreed, but because I needed to understand how deep this went. That day passed quietly, too quietly. The rain followed me everywhere, on the sidewalk, in the reflection of shop windows, in the sound of tires slicing through water. At work, I reread the medical report he had summarized for me, the one I had requested weeks ago and never received. The words were careful, professional, but they were clear. This was not nothing. This was not eventually. I felt something colder than fear settle in me. That evening, he came home late, later than usual. "The meeting ran long," he said, hanging his coat. I didn't ask which meeting. We ate dinner in silence. The rain filled the gaps. "You trust me, don't you?" he asked. suddenly. The question caught me off guard, not because it was unexpected, but because it was perfectly timed. Yes, I said. And in that moment, I understood the true shape of his betrayal. It wasn't another woman. It wasn't desire. It wasn't even cowardice. It was control disguised as care. Decisions made for me. Information filtered. My life edited without my consent. The rain kept falling, and I wondered how many other choices had already been made in my name while I believed I was still part of them. The rain didn't stop overnight. It softened instead, as if it were waiting. In the morning, he was already dressed when I woke up, tie straight, hair neat, prepared. Prepared for what, I wondered. Don't forget your appointment, he said lightly, checking his watch. My appointment. The way he said it made it sound small, routine, harmless. What appointment? I asked. He paused, just long enough. With the specialist, he replied. The one I told you about. No, the one he decided about. I nodded again. That had become my language. At the clinic, the rain blurred the glass doors until the outside world disappeared. Inside, everything smelled clean, controlled, quiet. The doctor spoke carefully, used words like options and monitoring and early intervention, words I should have heard weeks ago. I asked questions, real ones, the kind that make professionals pause. When I mentioned what my husband had told me, the doctor frowned. That's an incomplete summary, she said gently. Incomplete. Another word for edited. I left with a folder in my hands and something heavier in my chest. Not fear, recognition. On the way home, the rain soaked through my shoes. I walked anyway. At the apartment, I opened drawers I hadn't touched in years. Found paperwork, emails printed and folded, appointment confirmations, all addressed to him. My name appeared only as a subject, a case, a responsibility. He had been managing my health like a project, deciding what I could handle, what I should know, when I was allowed to worry. When he came home, I was sitting at the table, the folder open. He stopped in the doorway. "Did you go?" he asked. "Yes," I said. Silence stretched between us. The rain tapped the windows impatiently. "They said it's manageable," he offered quickly. "See? No reason to—" "Stop," I said quietly. He froze. "I need you to understand something," I continued. "This isn't about the diagnosis." He blinked. "It's about the fact that you decided my reality without me." He rubbed his temples, a familiar gesture, the one he used when work became inconvenient. "I was trying to protect you." "No," I said. You were protecting yourself from my reaction. The truth hung there, heavy, undeniable. You didn't trust me to be strong, I said, so you chose for me. He opened his mouth, closed it again. Outside, the rain grew louder, as if approving. That night, I slept alone, not because we argued, but because something fundamental had shifted. Trust doesn't always break loudly. Sometimes it dissolves, quietly, like sugar in water. Lying there, listening to the rain, I realized something else. If he could decide this for me, how many other parts of my life had already been rewritten? And how long had I mistaken silence for peace? The rain kept falling, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel afraid of what was coming. I felt alert. The rain stopped the morning I left. Not suddenly, not completely. It softened, as if even the sky was giving me space to breathe. He didn't notice at first. I packed quietly. Not everything, just enough to remind myself that leaving didn't have to look like escape. He was in the kitchen, reading something on his phone. Probably another decision being made somewhere else, without me. I have an appointment today, I said. He nodded, didn't look up. With the doctor, I added. That made him freeze. He looked at me then, really looked, as if seeing me for the first time in weeks. I thought we agreed, he started. No, I said calmly. You decided. I agreed to stay quiet. The rain tapped lightly against the windows again, like punctuation. I read the full report, I continued. All of it. The parts you edited out. The timelines you softened. His face shifted. Not guilt, not panic. Calculation. I was protecting you, he said. That's what you keep telling yourself, I replied. But protection without consent is just another form of control. He sighed, as if tired of being misunderstood. You're overreacting, he said. We're fine. We. The word felt strange now. I didn't leave because of the diagnosis, I said. I left because you decided I couldn't handle my own truth. The silence stretched, thick, uncomfortable. Outside, the city resumed its normal rhythm. Cars, footsteps, distant voices. Life continuing, indifferent to our private collapse. I did what I thought was best, he said finally. That's the problem, I answered. You never asked what was best for me. I picked up my bag. He didn't stop me, didn't follow. Maybe part of him was relieved. No more explanations. No more pretending this was partnership. At the door, I paused. There's one more thing, I said. He looked up, hopeful for a moment. I don't hate you, I continued, but I don't trust you anymore. And love can't survive where truth is optional. The rain began again as I stepped outside. heavier this time, honest. I walked without rushing, without fear, because betrayal doesn't always leave scars you can see. Sometimes it leaves clarity, and clarity is the beginning of choosing yourself.
Sometimes pain doesn't come from enemies, but from the ones we trusted the most. Maybe that's how life teaches us to see the truth. Could you forgive such a betrayal? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. More stories are coming, stories that will touch your heart.